2 to 9 hours a day collecting fuel and fodder and performing cooking chores. And as we saw with the horrendous cases in Sudan of the women who would have to go collecting firewood so that they could keep their kids warm or keep themselves warm at night, you know, the risk of rape and absolutely horrendous torture, you know, they were incredibly prevalent, but yet the women had no choice because they needed firewood. So they'd still have to leave and go find it and risk the most horrendous fate just to get fire to keep their children warm. Women have a higher incidence of mortality in natural disaster and suffer an increased threat of sexual violence. As caregivers, women often experience increased burden for caring for young and sick and elderly, as well as access to healthcare facilities, and forced migration could exacerbate women's vulnerability. All these things that we've kind of touched on already, but it just kind of brings it home again, all these different strata that women have to kind of move through to survive and recover in an increasingly temperamental situation, which, as we know, climate change is. So that's all for that slide. Thank you, Amy.
And it wouldn't need to be like this if it wasn't for the centuries of social conditioning and the construction of patriarchy and gender roles in all of our cultures that that's why we spent the first half of this presentation with the background that we did, so that when we get to this point, you'd understand the huge swathes of sort of the impact on lots and lots of different areas.
Okay, thank you, Amy. So again, this is just a flow chart of climate change consequences and impacts on women. Again, this is all, I'm sure, things that you will be aware of, but sometimes it's good to have it on a screen and in front of you, because it really kind of does drive it home. And so obviously here's climate change. We have the consequences: high temperature, low erratic precipitation, and the productivity, economic measures, and all the things that come down from that. And then women are sandwiched in the middle of all these different pressures, from climate change, from economic stress, from family, from social, you know, from society, all these different issues, and women are compacted in the middle of all of this. So just kind of bearing that in mind, I think, and being aware of that really does create a sense of solidarity, because women across the globe are not all facing the same issues, absolutely not, but we're all living under the same system to some degree. So that's an incredible kind of it's an incredible bond. So whether you're a working class woman or an upper class woman or a woman in the global north or a woman in the global south, you know, we have all these different factors that define our life under patriarchy. So I think being aware of it, being clear on it, it kind of brings home that connection to each other very powerfully. And I think that's something that's incredibly important for us moving forward as a movement and just as women in society generally. Thanks. Did you have anything to add to that, Aim?
Yeah, it reminds me, as you're speaking, of a speech that I think it was Audre Lorde gave on. One of the lines in the speech was, "Your silence will not protect you." And she talks about a time when she was really ill. I think she had or was suspected to have cancer. And she was saying that the people who supported her were women. And they were gay women, straight women, black, white, Asian, disabled, able-bodied, clever. You know, there were lots of different types of women. And what she was saying is, just to echo Sue's point about the bonds in society, we're stronger together, we're stronger in solidarity. So when we're facing all of these things in the little red boxes, the conflicts at home, the rape, abduction, violence, when we stand together as women and when we believe other women, it can have a huge force, positive force in our lives.
Absolutely. Thanks, Aim. Okay, so Women leading the way. So I love this picture.
Oh, it's a great image. The woman on the right hand side, second one in, her smile is wonderful.
I know, it's awesome. So women leading